Wow. It hit a lot of people yesterday. The head coach of the Indiana Fever, Christie Sides, gone. She gone. Fired.
Have you watched the recent WNBA events? The Indiana Fever's coach, Christie Sides, was recently sacked. This is where things start to get interesting, though. Caitlin Clark is the reason behind everything. You may be asking yourself, how can a coach be fired by a rookie player? This isn't your typical novice, I assure you. It's Caitlin Clark, the same Caitlin Clark who has been smashing records and lighting up scoreboards. Nevertheless, Sides was unable to adequately utilize her for whatever reason. We are discussing the most powerful force in Indiana, after all. Is it not unbelievable? A coach who is unable to maximize the potential of one of the best players in the league. At least in the Midwest, and especially in the magnificent state of Indiana, Caitlin Clark is the most significant thing in every state. You know how things don't always make sense? That's precisely what occurred with Caitlin Clark and Christie Sides. The translation seemed to get lost somewhere between the coach's clipboard and the court, as if they were speaking two separate basketball languages. For Christie Sides, I will say just one thing. Look, I doubt that anyone who has been following the Fever has noticed the amount of criticism that surrounded Christie Sides at the beginning of the year, because it's obvious that she was affected by the pressure. She was totally affected by the pressure. Let's examine what Sides was attempting to accomplish. She was in charge of this entire system. Did she even have the big three? The problem is that it simply wasn't working for Clark. As if she had forgotten she had a generational talent on her hands, Sides wanted to direct her plays in her own manner. The box in which Clark's abilities were being confined was far too small for her skill set. Many of us thought that this team didn't perform up to par this year. The big three are with you. In basketball, you shouldn't be eliminated right away when you enter the playoffs if you have a big three. Additionally, it seemed as though Caitlin Clark, an all-world talent, was being held back by the coach. I know what you're thinking, but Clark's figures are impressive. You're right, but pay close attention. The story is not over yet. Clark is capable of much more than those statistics indicate. Driving a Ferrari solely in the school zone is comparable to that. It's still impressive, to be sure, but you haven't seen the full potential of that engine. Do you recall that matchup with the Sun? In order to make the game-winning shot, Clark was pushed into the corner, who assigns the lowest position to their finest player. It's similar to expecting Steph Curry to post up or LeBron to play center. Clark's sweet spot isn't that corner three. It's like attempting to write with your non-dominant hand in basketball. You may complete the task, but it won't be attractive. With Caitlin Clark moving into the right-hand corner and curling into it to shoot a fading three while going right, while she's not good going right, they executed the worst play in history once, I believe, against the Connecticut Sun. Sides seemed to be attempting to force a square peg into a round hole. Plays that didn't make sense were wasting Clark's skill. Sides had her playing decoy half the time rather than using all of Clark's weapons. Imagine being able to shoot confetti with a cannon. This was essentially what was taking place. The rotations of that coach Sides aren't very good. She is an awful coach. Well, I suppose they were correct. Well, congratulations to the Iowan who contacted my show and declared Coach Sides to be the worst coach ever. Tension was rising. It was evident in Clark's body language after timeouts. She appeared disappointed and frustrated. It is like to witnessing a racehorse being instructed to trot. Before the race, Clark would return to the court with the appearance of someone telling her to tie her shoes together. We have witnessed Caitlin Clark emerge from timeouts, Christie. Every time Caitlin Clark is instructed to play a decoy, observe her body language as she emerges from timeouts. She simply leaves and stands there each time she is instructed to be a decoy. The actual kicker is right here. Compared to her college stats, Clark's efficiency and consumption rate under Sides were significantly lower. It's as if Sides decided to try something entirely different after seeing Clark's collegiate highlight video. Basketball experts couldn't figure out why Sides wasn't customizing the system for her best player. Here's the deal then. Despite having excellent stats, Sides' system prevented Clark from realizing her full potential. It seems as though Clark was dropping $20 a game while playing with one hand bound behind her back. If she were truly placed in a position to succeed, just think of what she could do. Replacements that make no sense at all the wrong moments. Caitlin Clark played poor defense and was benched for an extended period of time. I'll be honest, she feels like an exceptionally talented junior high basketball coach. Let's now examine what occurs when a coach fails to bring out the best in their top player. Believe me, this clash of styles was only the start of a far larger storm that was building in Indiana. So, not your coach. Was she adept at making changes to the game? No. Did she make good subs? No. Did she have the ability to observe what the other teams were doing and organize games accordingly? No, the entire Fever locker room was going to flood because to a larger storm that was brewing. Do you know how a small spark can occasionally ignite a large fire? That's precisely what transpired between Sides and Clark. The craziest moment was when they became so furious with each other during one drill that it seemed like the entire gym was on fire. Despite her, they seemed to be winning, as if they were occasionally forced to play both their own coach and the other squad. Do you recall the irritated expression on Clark's face that we discussed? The cameras weren't the only reason. Things were heating up behind the scenes. We're having such tight team meetings that you can almost feel the sparks flying. According to sources, there was so much tension in the air that a knife could cut through it. Everyone seemed to be treading carefully in anticipation of something breaking. Not even you can make it up. However, Caitlin Clark could not have possibly wanted Christie Sides to be a coach. She left Lisa Bluter, but I don't think she detested Christie Sides enough to order her dismissed. You may be asking yourself, did Clark really say anything? She did more than that, I see. Sides and Clark got into a heated argument during one workout. We're discussing heated arguments, rising voices, and other such topics. It resembled the full-speed collision of two basketball wits. It wasn't pretty yet, I'll tell you that. But this is where things start to get interesting. Clark wasn't the only one who was tired. Sides' choices were beginning to be questioned by other players as well. The team seems to have woken up and realized that perhaps our top player has a point. Everyone could sense how the locker room was becoming a pressure cooker. The consequences were also seen on the court. It was a roller coaster of a performance by the team. They would appear invincible in a single game, capable of defeating any team in the league. The following one, they appeared to have never performed together before. Let's talk about whiplash. The fans couldn't figure out which Fever team would be there every night, leaving them perplexed. The awful coaching that Christie Sides must have done throughout the game was one of the things that became popular after every defeat. Indeed, that is what would occur. In a game where they would blow significant leads, she would bleed up and they would lose. She ran the gauntlet of ruining games for Caitlin Clark and her squad this season, no matter what. The actual kicker is right here. There was complete division in the changing room. Some players were keeping to the coach's system and supporting Sides. Others were ready to make a difference and were all on Clark's side. It seemed as though the Fever had split into two teams and no one could predict which would prevail. The whole thing was like a powder keg waiting to blow up. Every time the squad took the court, the suspense was almost palpable. The moment had come when something had to give. It all boils down to Caitlin Clark and what she and other players told the new leadership and management in an internal meeting. Now picture yourself watching all of this unfold from the front office. The coach and your top player are at each other's throats. The locker room is on the verge of exploding and your squad is playing as if they have conflicting personalities. What are you doing? Let's see how the management of the Fever chose to deal with this situation. The Indiana Fever just performed the basketball equivalent of a buzzer beater in the front office, so hold on to your jerseys, people. You may believe you've witnessed daring maneuvers before, but this is a whole other level. What they did is not the only question. How the hell are they going to pull this off? Let's explore the most recent Hail Mary pass for the Fever. I didn't get the impression that Clark and Christie Sides were in love. You didn't get the feeling that she was in love with her, but it's not like she loathed her. Here's the deal then. The team is in disarray. Sides is barely surviving and Clark is not happy. What is the role of the front office? They seem to be engaged in a high-stakes game of chess, except that half of the pieces are burning. Do they risk losing Clark by remaining with Sides, or do they do something so daring that the league as a whole will take notice? Come on, you may be thinking, there is only one player. This isn't just any player, though, so wait. We are speaking of Caitlin Clark, the same Caitlin Clark who has been selling jerseys, packing seats, and reviving the Fever. Let's examine her rate of views. Compared to 2022, ticket sales increased by 16% in 2023. In 2024, ticket sales increased by 93%. That implies that the WNBA would not have reached their current status without Caitlin Clark until 2029 or 2030. The WNBA's viewership increased by 40% from 2022 and 2023 prior to the 2023 season. However, since Caitlin Clark joined, the number of watchers has increased by 400%. The location of the front office was more constrained than Clark's handles. Mid-season coach termination, maintaining your franchise player's satisfaction while replacing your engine while you're still driving is analogous to that. That's the equivalent of keeping the lights on in basketball. You really must do it. Oh, did the coach lose his job because of the little Iowa girl? Many individuals will have to say yes if they want to do it well, don't they? You can bet that meetings were going on nonstop behind closed doors. The space likely resembled a battle room, with plans being created and scrapped more quickly than Clark can take 3 steps back. There was pressure to make a choice quickly. Then, suddenly, the news is released. There is no Christie Sides. The Fever made their decision in an instant. It's as if they turned the entire table upside down after glancing at the chessboard. The recently appointed basketball operations president didn't hold back. We are incredibly grateful to Coach Sides for taking on the job of guiding us through a crucial transitional phase over the past 2 seasons and setting us up for future success, she said. Yes, really. Okay, then, even though choices like this are never simple, we must continue to be fearless and assertive in our efforts to achieve our objectives, which include making the most of our potential and returning to the great state with another WNBA title. I'm including that because Indiana is a fantastic state. We wish Coach Sides all the best in her future endeavors. She was an amazing ambassador for the Fever in our community. With this gesture, the Fever are stating, "You are our future, Clark." The entire league is raving about their rookie star, so they threw all their chips in the middle and bet big. However, Clark was able to keep her safe without even having to fight.
Naturally, though, this starts a new discussion. Caitlin Clark could not have battled to keep Christie Sides. I believe that to be the extent. I believe Caitlin Clark would likely say no if someone asked her if she thought we could win with Christie Sides. Because Caitlin Clark cannot be fired as the organization has stated, because Caitlin Clark wasn't going to do that based on what we know about her personally. There's more to this story, though. It's not just about Clark or Sides. The entire WNBA scene is changing as a result of this. Every front office in the league is wondering if they would have the courage to make the same decision while other coaches and stars are sweating. What comes next then? How will the Fever be affected by this? More significantly, how will it alter the rules for the league's best players? Basketball fans, fasten your seatbelts. We've only just begun this journey. Isn't what we just saw unbelievable? Even though Caitlin Clark's time in Indiana is only getting started, she is already completely changing the WNBA. This goes beyond a rookie showing off her skills or a coach being fired. Women's basketball has completely changed. Do you recall what Dan Dasich stated? Oh, did the coach lose his job because of the little Iowa girl? A lot of folks, you'll have to answer yes if you want to do it well, won't you? And what do you know? He may have a point. People, we're witnessing a change of power. More than ever, elite athletes are making the decisions. What do you think then? Are the Fever playing with fire, or did they make the correct decision? Is the WNBA entering a new era, or is there going to be a lot more turmoil ahead? The game will never be the same. That much is certain.